Hi, I am Rosalie Fox, and I am very honored to join you for the evening, even if it is just on video. I would have loved to be there. It's always easier to write fictional stories than it is to talk about yourself, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm fascinated by the past. I'm fascinated by how it must have been to walk and fly and love in World War II. I'm fascinated by the stories of the boys who too quickly became men and those who became no older at all. So I write historical fiction about World War II aviators and their stories of love, forgiveness, of how hard it must have been to build a life again after you have flown through hell. There will always be a little love story, though I don't think they straight up qualify as romance. Romance has a certain recipe to it. I have 2 books out currently. The first is A Tale of Wild Geese, and this is the book that made an author out of me. Even though I've written and published things before this is my heart book. And this is its sequel, Johnny Riley's story, A Place to Land. And these books have come with me for many, many years. I was always obsessed with the sky. I was a lonely farm girl, and I looked at the sky, I looked at the birds and the planes and the clouds drifting by, and I dreamt. I dreamt of how it must be to see clouds and earth from above, to fly away. And when I first heard Phil Coulter's beautiful piano piece, Lament for the Wild Geese, and knowing what that particular story was about, A Tale of Wild Geese started for me. That was the moment Danny O'Neill walked in. Danny is one of the American pilots who snuck out of his own country because in the first few years of World War II, before America joined the war, it was illegal for an American to join the fight against Germany due to the neutrality clauses. It's a fascinating story if you start digging into the Eagle squadrons. So Danny is illegally flying for the RAF in hopes of creating a better life, of leaving the past behind. And then there is Johnny Riley, who is also a wild goose, because he's from Belfast in Ireland. He too has no obligation to fight for the RAF. Another wild goose without country. And the term wild goose comes from the Irish rebellion in the 1700s. When they lost, they had to leave their country, those young men, and fought in wars that were not their own, losing a claim to their country, even to their identity. And this is a theme that I run with in A Tale of Wild Geese. All of my characters eventually lose something of their homeland, something of their identity to become something else, and all of them fight in a war that they did not quite plan on somehow, a war that is not quite their own. And A Place to Land carries on with the story, with Johnny Riley trying to find peace under the white Karua skies and in Namibia, back then, German Southwest Africa. And they are the first 2 books in my series, Birds of War. A warbird is a vintage fighter plane, or a bomber. And all of them are linked to World War II aviation. I am obsessed with planes. The wall behind me might also give a hint into that. The third book, The Red Cross Letters, will be out later this year, and it jumps to a different set of characters. It's about a South African and an Englishman, both of them artists in their own right, flying in North Africa and in Crete. And it too has two separate love stories. And all of my books explore the love between brothers in arms, wingmen, the particular bond that those men who fought wingtip to wingtip had between them. Something I don't know if we see enough about the plain love between men, unashamedly. Not to dig into that. Excuse my dogs fighting outside. This is my life. It's there could be goats in between as well. So I get the question very often, what drew me to this era? I read all those lovely Reader's Digest condensed books, and a lot of them were war stories. And that's where my love for them started. The Eagle Has Landed, The Distant Summer, all the accounts by those fighter pilots, and of course Paul Brickhill's beautiful biography of Douglas Bader, Reach for the Sky. I read a lot of that, and I knew I wanted to tell the story of how it could have been, a sort of tribute. It's not so very long ago, and yet it's being forgotten. So I am obsessed with that. I am also obsessed with getting our Spitfire back in the air, but that's a completely different dream. No one in my family is a pilot, sadly. I would have loved that. The obsession with aviation, I don't think that runs in the family. I picked up a bug somewhere. As to my background in writing, I've been telling stories ever since I was very small. I tried to write a book when I was like grade 1. It was awful. And I never quite stopped. And originally, A Tale of Wild Geese was, the first 3 drafts were written between my 16th year and the year I turned 19, and I knew I wasn't mature enough to tell the story, so it got stuck back in a drawer. And I finally picked it up again in December 2022 and rewrote it in 3 absolutely fevered, sleepless weeks. It was wonderful. I was so exhausted. Best time of my life, cried so much. I have a lot of funny stories about that, but not enough time to tell you. And yeah, so when I finished school, I studied BA Communication at the Northwest University in Potchefstroom with the main subject of creative writing under Professor Francie Greiling. And through her, I also got involved afterwards when I'd graduated in a short story compilation by Fani Viljoen, and I sent in 2 short stories. It was published under my maiden name, Rosa Vermeulen. So if you're very curious, you can go look for Fani Viljoen's little book, Galop. It's a compilation of horse stories for children. Quite a different scene from the books that I write now. It was very successful. It was a lovely experience, but I enjoy this more. I've come longer with this. And so for many years after that, because I was like 23 when they were published, I did not successfully write anything. I tried a couple of stories, mostly horse related. I was working as a horse riding coach back then. And I think it was simply because I was meant to tell Danny's story and I was meddling with other things that were a waste of my time. And An incredible young lady came into my life through horses, and she sparked the interest again. She's also got a book out now. So shout out to Genevieve Cruiser, who has written Not Quite Meant to Be, for bringing me back to what I was supposed to be doing. And I'm running out of time. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you're having a wonderful evening. Wish I was there.